Hey guys, ready to start? It looks like we've got a bunch of new people. That's cool. John's room is taking off. So I guess a few words before we start. This is the fifth game that Shusaku played with Gennan Inseki during this time. We saw the first one, which was two stones, where White had to resign after like 120 moves. The second one was the ear-reddening game, which Shusaku won. Um, We saw the third game, which White actually was suspended in 59 moves. And the fourth one isn't given in the book until later. This is the fifth game. This is the last one they played in this series. And Hilbert said it a while ago, R16 indeed. I'm just going to let you guys give me the first 7 moves. Where for White? Since we all know this by now. D17, Q3, P17, C4, R5, Q15. Indeed, yeah, the classic Shusaku opening. So they played like this again, um, and White decided to stop, the development potential on the right hand side since Black is ready to get this nice pincer slash extension move. Um, and so he makes a 5-space extension. And also, he has like a follow-up at A, which would be on the angle point of the 2 Kosumi stones. Shusaku plays here. Maybe considered a little slow nowadays. I actually played almost this exact same game against Mr. Yang on Friday. The only difference is that D17 was like D16 or something like that. And he said this was a good move, but he would rather like approach or enclose an open corner. But in any case, this aims at invading, right? We can invade like at A. Also, if you notice, this is the spot where White would start the Taisha if White put a stone at B. And White can fight pretty strongly when he already has a stone ready at R11. So this move seems pretty reasonable to me. And White actually um, deals with this immediately. He wants to reduce the severity of an invasion over here. And for Inseki, this would be a little too mild just to play like this. So he attaches here and settles like this. And now A is already reduced in terms of its severity, right? Because our R5 stone is already handled. Now, where do we typically play next for Black here? Is the Joseki finished? That's true, they do like playing 016. But in the lower right, it's not really finished yet, right? Why isn't it finished? What does Black normally need? It normally needs a base, right? But Shusaku actually just keeps playing fast. He takes another approachment. The normal Joseki move is actually K3, which is, a normal shape, fourth line going down to third line with 3 spaces in between. Now, Rafa's idea would be pretty interesting because it makes the ideal 5-space extension from C4, which is the type of thing you can see like in a mini Chinese or low Chinese opening. On the other hand, it is 4 spaces from this one, so perhaps there could be some problems in here connecting these 2 stones. But I think black is kind of treating this as an option anyway, this S2 move. So he actually just plays quickly here instead of making a base. And white takes an approachment, which is pretty interesting, especially this one, because this move wasn't considered very good at the time. If you notice, we haven't seen any high approaches to a 3/4 at all in these Shusaku games, and I'll try to explain what their thinking was about that. G3 I think looks pretty good, right? Because we do want to do something on the bottom. The bottom's important because we never finished the Joseki, but their thinking at the time was a little different. Black actually plays here. Let me click a couple moves. Okay, so first of all, why does he play high? If he goes low, this is just a pretty easy answer for black, right? Normally when your opponent neglects to finish Joseki, we don't want to help them take care of their issue, right? And this kind of just helps black fix the problem on the bottom. So he doesn't really want to do that. During this time, the reason they didn't really like this move, let's take a look. They just felt like black gets too much territory, essentially. Playing like this, they feel like black gets a lot more territory than white. Also could be like this. And they also think that black gets more territory in this variation. Do you guys know this one? Where's the next move for white? There's more than one, but like the standard move. Right, G4. And now where's the territorial? Oh, C3 is way too early, Ruckus, because you already have one cut. But C3 is an aim now that you have a stronger shape. Right, here's a territorial variation, right? Clamp, the single stone, has a liberty problem, so it can't really be punished. Oh no, I broke the tree already. That's fail. Too bad. Now I don't have to worry about it at least. Um, in the real game, Shusaku actually plays here. But let's take a look at this. Yeah, that was fast. So in this Joseki, they felt like black gets too much territory, which I think is understandable. But too painful. In this case, this wouldn't be good for black, right? Where's white gonna play? Right, M3. White will go all the way and use these powerful guys here, and black's gonna have to deal with his 4 stones now, so that's kind of not the greatest. There's another common variation here too. Instead of clamping at A for territory, we could try to grow the left side. Do you know how that one works? What's the move to grow the left? Right, Hane and double Hane. Here, or white Ataris. This is kind of a useful trick to know here. Like, how do you know that you can Atari here? Because usually when there's 2 Ataris, it's not a good idea to use it right away, right? But normally when your Atari gives black the bad shape, the empty triangle, it's just okay to do that right away. Because if you compare it with this one, that's a comparatively good shape, right? So in the Joseki, white Ataris, and then extends, black pushes. Now normal Joseki is Tahane here, again, and black kind of grows the left and white grows the bottom. But this would be bad in this case, right? Because now black has Sente to play something on the bottom, so white can't really use it. But white can just extend here. He can change Joseki a little bit. Black still needs to come back, and then white can get this again. So those variations kind of show why Shusaku played here, even though it's not Joseki to ignore. The bottom was more important. so that's why he played here. This allows white to play Ruckus's idea, the attachment here. Black answers strongly. This is kind of an interesting thing. Just playing like this is a little, what's the word? Slack, not forceful enough. So we play like this, and black plays Atari. I'm sort of anticipating that a lot of you are going to feel like white gets ripped off here. Like, what, you mean black gets the corner too? And I think that's kind of understandable to feel that way, right? Like black got K3, and also when white followed up in the corner, black gets the corner too. Seems pretty nice for black. Black just won. Not quite though. White's influence is going to be useful, right? So black got completely enclosed on the left side. This is kind of painful too, actually. Let's look at one detail here that Miyamoto pointed out, is that if white has the ladder, he'll make this exchange and then do this ladder, of course. Unfortunately, this one doesn't work right now, or white's c3 would work a lot better, right? That's probably why black didn't really mind playing at k3, because white can't get this ladder. Miyamoto pointed out that since white is going this way, he doesn't make the A-B exchange. This is a really minute detail. How do I do this without giving away the next move? I guess we'll come back to that. So what should white do now? We have two cuts, right? What do you guys think? F8. F8 just has too much aji. If you're going to fix the cut, you should at least fix it. I guess the question is more, oh, nice. Very nice. That's exactly where white plays. So that was kind of like a trick question. The thing is, it's too slow to connect this right now because black will just extend here. And if you take, oh yeah, maybe he does. If you take a look at these two stones here, white's influence is almost completely negated already. So we don't really want to do that. So white actually leaves those problems there and plays here for now. Now let's go back to here. The reason Miyamoto says white doesn't make the A-B exchange in this case is for this move, the follow-up at A has a little more effect when you haven't forced black to play B yet. That's kind of, it's a really minute detail though, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Cut syndrome from playing Starstorm. Why wouldn't you make that exchange? Okay, so let's try to look at the diagram. So I think it's a really, really minute thing because when I looked at it, it didn't really seem like a big deal either. But in this case, there's like a stone missing here, right? So maybe even later you can get A, and then this is going to be Atari. Essentially, there's like some liberties missing here, right? Because the stones aren't actually connected. Whereas if you play like this, this just is a little more dull at this point, right? It's a really small deal in this case because black can't really like push and do something here anyway. But that was just something Miyamoto pointed out. I found it kind of interesting. Black goes for the Taisha. White has helper stones nearby, but you can still play Taisha with C11 on the board. And he's thinking about these cuts, right? So that's what he's looking forward to do. White plays the fight. Miyamoto pointed out that this move or this move would both not be enough. It's too slack when white has all these stones, right? Even though there's cuts, he wants to try and use his stones. So we get into our standard Taisha deal. You guys are probably used to this by now. It's a little different now because there's already a stone at A, but for the most part it's the same. This move, however, that white played is a little interesting. Normally when you're going to play like this, you would make this Hane exchange first and then jump, but he just jumped, which is slightly interesting. Let's look at what would happen if you played the normal way. You guys know this one by now? Maybe I'll let someone try to give me the moves. We're for black now. E14, just standard one. All right, connect. And for white, good. And black, good. White, want to link our stones up now. Yeah, but don't need to touch black because that's just gonna get him to extend, and you're probably still gonna have to fix. So this is the normal move. Then we get into this, right? And this is what Miyamoto thinks will happen, and then he thinks either black can go for thickness by doing this type of thing, get some center going, or could play this invasion, which he considered to be quite a severe move, right? Because you've got the A stone to deal with, you've also got like the cross attach. At B, you have to worry about too. So he thinks maybe that's why white doesn't want to play that one. So he plays like this instead. Black still needs to help these guys out. This part's the same. Black takes a momentary break from the Joseki to get this press in. Press white down a little bit. And now he connects. White Hanes now. This is a little bit out of order. And he plays here, which is a smart move. Actually, it's more normal to play here, but this wouldn't be that great. I'll explain why in a second. Black jumps here, and white already has a stone at A, so that gives white Sente to push up here, which he really wants to do, so the top doesn't become too flat. If he connects here, then when black jumps, he's going to have to play here anyway, so he's essentially lost a move, right? So this move is pretty good judgment. Okay, black's got to help his stones in the center. So we run like this. This shape is pretty strong, so we can run a little faster, right? We can go 2 spaces. And now the cut is getting severe, so white connects. And that lets black invade on the top. So that's kind of interesting. So Miyamoto thinks that if white defends on the top, then this cut is pretty severe. Yeah, I'll try to explain that. Actually, that just reminded me of a diagram I missed too. Basically, oh, sorry. He actually put it here. Black has these two stones here now, so he'll be able to force white on the left, right? The group on the left is surrounded, and also the group on the bottom, the B group, is surrounded too. So it's not that anything's going to die, but the way Miyamoto put it is that all the good moves on the board now are going to be black's moves. So it's just a type of situation where white probably feels like he's lost control of the game, even if it's only slightly so. I think it's more than slightly in this case though. But he just doesn't want to get into that sort of situation. I missed one diagram here. Instead of playing the Taisha, Miyamoto thought about this. Maybe push both sides low. That's kind of like a standard thing to do too. In this case though, white might just be happy to take territory. This is, I know this looks complicated. This is like standard Joseki stuff. This is what you can expect. And if we do this same sort of thing, white can cap here. In this case, there's no stone at B13. There's no stone, where was it? Here, somewhere similar. So white actually has a lot more room to breathe on the left-hand side. So at this point, it seems like maybe this isn't that great for black. Black might have trouble winning this game just in terms of the territory, is what Miyamoto thought. But at this point, with the presence of these two stones, the cut is more meaningful. That's why white finally comes back and connects here. More likely G8. So that pretty much comes back to what I was saying with Ruckus, is that normally if you want to fix the problem, you should just fix the problem. Sometimes your idea is good, right? Let's try to do something better. But just as easily, this could end up being a slow move. Because there's still more Aji, right? Like we don't have to cut directly. Maybe there's probably a bunch of Sente moves like just anywhere in this area. So it's probably not advisable. So he just took like the straightforward solid approach. Right. And if you have to come back and fix the cut later, that means you spent 2 moves to do it instead of 1. This move's pretty severe because this group has some weakness, right? There's also 2 cuts. White has 2 cuts. So this is interesting. Now, where's black's next move here? This is a important shape exercise. Interesting. Yeah. Pretty good. Actually solid though. I think in this case, since these stones are strong, if you do this, white can probably link, right? Can he? Oh, maybe he can't. How about these guys though? So maybe that's not so bad for black. Interesting. Right, he can't link. Interesting. Shusaku actually plays here because he has his eye on these 2 cuts. Bad shape after white Nobi. Which Nobi? Of the sequence. Oh, like here, maybe? I see. Interesting. Shusaku is more interested in the top left group, I guess, which is why he plays strong. This is interesting. One really important thing to point out here is that a lot of Q players will push like this, which is really bad, right? We like give ourselves the broken shape. But white is going to play at A anyway. So since white is going to play at A, now we would rather have our B stone at C instead of that push. So that's the idea here. We're going to play away from white a little bit so that we don't have a really bad broken shape. And now he plays kind of like a taboo move. This move makes a broken shape, which is locally it's really, really bad, right? This is the broken Kema shape. So normally you don't want this to happen, but it's not a mistake. He just has a plan, right? So he needs to make sure that he's out first. He doesn't want white to contain him like with A. So he makes one exchange. He's preparing for this cut, essentially. So he cuts, or he pushes and he cuts. And he's getting ready to capture these 3 stones, right? So we need to protect those guys. And he goes to try and connect under. This is actually a sacrifice, of course. He doesn't expect to be able to connect under. He expects white to play at A, which will lead to a really nice result for black, but Inseki plays this really beautiful Tsuji here, which is kind of cool. Let's look at what black would like to happen first. This is pretty standard, right? This type of 2-stone sacrifice. And this is a fantastic result for black, right? Capture the 2 outside stones. Yeah, pretty good. M15. M15 reason. Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay, so just Nobi instead of what? Nobi at L15. Oh, you want to play like this? Less Sente value, right? Black probably wants to make sure that his move's actually going to be Sente. Because this one, I don't know, maybe white will leave these guys alone and take care of the group on top. I don't know, it seems a bit lacking in Sente value and also kind of slow too. But interesting idea, because you really don't want to make that bad shape, right? But if black gets this result, he doesn't really care all that much. So what's the meaning of this Tsuji? Black actually has to back off, because if he plays like this, now this move becomes Sente, right? And if that move is Sente, that means these 2 stones no longer have a liberty problem. They've just connected up. And now white can just kill these. And that would be really bad for black. That's not what he wants. That's why he actually has to back off here. And then he does, white goes for like the same sort of thing. And it looks similar, except now if you notice later on, white can play A. Black would have to connect. And white can pick up 4 stones. So he's kind of got that in the bag for later, right? Which is a big difference compared to the diagram we just saw. So Miyamoto felt like white is actually winning this game a little bit now. He has successfully parried black's attack. Yeah, it's pretty insightful of him to play G15 like that. Now the next order of business for white is to handle this A group. But first, you have to make sure we take care of this detail here. This is an important move to get in, or black might take it away. And it's Sente right now. He's going to calmly handle his group. Black stones are weak too, right? And he has to make this somewhat painful 1 space extension here. White makes a nice forcing exchange here. You can see he's trying to fence these stones in, right? So M14 might help a little bit. And then he goes for the base. Now, I would be inclined to help to defend this group as black, but Shusaku kind of his positional judgment is probably a little better than mine, and he decides that he can't really win the game by doing that. So he plays kind of a really strong, maybe call it crazy move in a second. First, he makes this exchange, and then he plays here. The reason being, if he just defends like this, it seems like it's going to be really hard to win the game after white jumps up, right? It's creating a little moyo on the right-hand side. This type of thing won't be any better. It'll settle the black group, but it'll just hand white the right side. So he makes the decision to try and take this area. So what do we do as white here? There's pretty much only one move possibility here. One thing Miyamoto said here, by the way, is that it's not like white's lead is huge, it's small. So if he lets up the pressure even a little bit, white's going to, or he's gonna, black's gonna come back. Q10, 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 P11. Okay, that's, wait, P11, Q10. Okay, that's 2 out of the 3 main ideas. Okay, there's the third one. Good. Which stones, how to put this? Which stones are heavier for black? I mean, that sounds really stupid because R9 isn't even a group of stones. It's only one stone, right? So I'm kind of giving you the answer. We need to put pressure on the heavy guys. This is a group, right? And R9 is only one stone. Yeah, Paperbird got it first. And why can we throw this one out? The jump. What's the problem with this? Right. Black can just connect under. Oh, you did? Okay, thanks, Ruckus. Yeah, so we can't do that. We have to play a Kosumi to separate. The problem with this one is it's not really playing towards the heavier group. Also, black has a really great answer to this move. Can anyone find it? It's a vital point of the bottom right hand group. Because the bottom right white group, it's okay, but it's still not that strong. R7, no, it's this angle point. Yeah, nice, Keiko. This is nice, right? Takes the angle point from white, and it's also coming out with the A stone. So white goes like this and tries to put as much pressure as he can on this group. This group looks pretty weak. Shusaku peeps and jumps lightly. This looks pretty thin, but white has 2 stones that need to get out also. How do we come out with our stones? Good. No reason to touch either side because that's just going to help black most likely. So we just come out with the nice shape and leave both sides weak. Now black connects a lot of, taking care of the thin areas, and this actually has an aim to push and cut ABC. So white actually has to respond to that. Let's take a look at what black's aiming at. If you push and cut and white plays here, then we can cut these 5 stones off. And if these 5 stones are weak, it's hard to say that the A stones are extremely weak, right? Because we're going to be running together, which means it's going to be virtually impossible for white to actually hurt our A group. So that doesn't look too good. If white connects, black can just play here and pick up 4 stones. That also looks really terrible for white. Notice how white plays here. This is pretty stylish, I guess, because in the variations we just looked at, these stones needed to run out, right? So he's actually forcing here first, because black can't push and cut now because the A stone would help the mark stones to run. So black has to answer that. So this is a little forcing exchange, and then white comes back and fixes it. Okay, let's see. And now this move, if this was in my game, I would probably be thinking, wow, this looks pretty ugly. It looks just pretty ugly, right? Like black is trying to attack white when black has his own weaknesses. Yeah, it is a sort of vital point. And the only move for white is here. And the question becomes, can black cut at A? If black can cut at A, the game is pretty much over. But this is the only move for white to connect up, right? If we do something like this, it leaves too many weaknesses. Yeah, he can't actually cut at A right now. We'll take a look at that. So he plays this vital point that we saw earlier. Let's take a look at the cutting variations. Yeah, Ruckus would definitely cut here. I have no question. So up to here is forced. And we have a fight, right? And now there's essentially two moves black can think about, A and B. So let's take a look at both. If we do A, we're trying to save this guy, right? But white has a really nice move here now. Do you guys see where it is? Right. Wedge in. You can't really do A because then black can double Atari at B. So we're going to have to Atari from the outside. White connects. Notice that white can play A next to capture at least the P11 stone. So black would have to do something like this. Now white can Hane and make a hanging connection. And so this is pretty much like, you know, one-way street. And now white has Mii of A and B. So this isn't going to work for black. Black can't play like this. So let's try the other one. Maybe we'll play like this to not allow white to get the wedge. But that allows white to come after this stone, right? Cut. White can threaten to come through. And white is essentially living here with this. And now these three stones are probably going to need to come out. White can reinforce. Still looking to attack these, but there's also the threat of a Hane here now to surround black. Miyamoto thinks these stones need to come out. Now white can Hane. And now there's a really interesting stuff here on the right hand side. Essentially we got surrounded, right? So our only hope is going to be to capture white. And this seems to be the place to start. White doesn't actually have two eyes yet. I really wonder if they read all this out during the game, because this variation is pretty interesting. Still not two eyes, right? But white can try to make another ko here. Now notice if we just connect, white can't connect at A because that would be connect and die, but white doesn't have to do that. He can just capture this and he can do connection under, so black is still dying there. So this actually becomes a ko here. thought ko. Maybe it is still ko. Yeah, it looks like it's still going to be ko, right? It looks like it's still ko, because if you connect here, that's ko. Yeah, but this is sente to ko also. R12, then R14. Yeah, also ko. So it seems like that would still be some kind of ko. Had two R14, he was... Oh yeah, duh, thanks. That's the type of thing I do when I'm reviewing these things for some reason. Yeah, so this would be ko. Yep, there's a ko in every game. So there's this ko, but white captures, threatening A, and now there's a double ko, right? So you can't kill this white group because no matter what you do, he's just going to capture one of the kos. So that's a double ko, and if they read that out ahead of time, I'm very impressed. Okay, but maybe black doesn't need to answer this one, right? What if we just capture these? Now white has like this amazing Tsuji that surprised me more than normal. No, Q8 is on the board. Yeah, R8. That is such a crazy move. Yeah, I could tell that's what you meant. Isn't that cool? So if black Ataris, it's going to be game over after white cuts here. And if he connects, white can connect. And maybe we try to go for this fight. But white has peep and cover. And this group A is going to lose the fight against B. Has two eyes. Oh, you're right. Wait. If T11. So how do you live right now? T11 ko. Yeah, I don't think you have two eyes exactly. But anyway, black wouldn't be able to do that either. So that's just a big long way of saying that black can't cut here right now. But with this stone, this would change the diagram we just saw, right? So even though this stone is way over here, it is affecting what's going to happen over here. So white follows up against this group, still attacking the whole group. And now black shows his positional judgment again. He decides that if he keeps trying to save this group, white's just going to keep attacking him and is going to slowly consolidate his lead little by little. So he actually goes for an exchange. First, he extends here, to get part of the group out. When white pushes here, he has the wedge now, right? So he can actually cut all these guys off. But black's judgment was to trade over here. So he takes this, he offers white a trade. White says, okay, let's do that. And so they actually trade like this. White gets these black stones and black gets these ones. White actually captured more area than black, but Miyamoto points out that if you consider that the stones in the bottom right were kind of part of a moyo earlier, a little potential area of territory, it seems more equitable because black's stones are weak anyways, right? So in a way, it's nice to be able to get rid of those. So white plays here. This is kind of interesting too. Black responds with this Kosumi. If you respond normally, there's like a really cool thing white can do here. Double Hane to start. And now when black Ataris, white has a cool sequence. Can anyone find it? Okay, and if black tries to stop you from connecting under? There's something better you can do. You can use these guys. Don't look too locally. Yeah, S7. Wouldn't that be bad? Suddenly, white is either going to get A or he's going to bring these guys back to life. That would be really, really bad after the trade we just made. So, if black captures, white can do that. If black connects, then white can connect. So that's why Shusaku backs off here. The Q10 stone isn't that important anymore at this point. He lets white capture it, and he backs off. Now white plays this Hane. His idea is to cut these guys off and maybe get some center. It also aims at maybe some Aji, like with the A Atari later. Another possibility that Miyamoto pointed out is that you could just try to reduce this area. That's the other main idea white could go with. Black follows up his move. He wants to threaten to connect to the dead stones. White gets his Atari in and Sente. And now how do we disconnect black? I ask because I've made a really stupid mistake here before in my games. Right, S13. It's not that hard, but if you're not paying attention, you play this type of thing, and then, black gets the vital point, and you end up hitting yourself. What happens if white refuses the trade? I have no idea. Let's go back and try and find out. So you're saying on this move, right? White needs to try and live now? Okay, so we try to live. Whoops, not there. Maybe black gets this sort of thing? Or at least save a big portion of them? It's probably just has to do with the size. Also, one thing is that these stones are potentially weak too, right? If white doesn't make the capture. So it would just be a different game probably. And white probably decided that, like I said, that white's capture is bigger than black's, right? So he was probably happy to take it. He probably was thinking, I'm still going to win this game. White gets to keep chasing. I don't think so. I think white looks as weak as black here. Right? Possible. But yeah, it would be a different game. Yeah, so this point is important. And since white did this thing, black does the other one that I mentioned. He grows the bottom. White still wants to try and use these stones. So he plays here, threatening to come out. Black answers that. White plays this Kosumi, which may look a little slow, but it is really starting to capture these three. And it's aiming at A, B, C, which would actually give black's group some trouble on top. So black actually captures here. to make sure that he gets to keep his 4 stones and also just get eye shape for the whole thing. So if he doesn't do anything, we've got A, B, C, and this is going to be a ko, right? But let's say black is eventually forced to capture. This entire black thing is actually not alive yet. It seems like it has only one eye. Could lose the 4 stones later. So K12 is not as slow as it looks. That being said, Miyamoto thought that another possibility, since when black captures here, he gets to save his 4 stones and also live with his group so easily, he felt like maybe white could consider playing like this, even though he loses the ABC possibility. It's interesting. A lot of the comments, like there weren't really any, oh, this is a mistake, he messed up. It's just kind of like, the pro commentator wondering maybe this could have gone better if he played like this, but not completely certain. So almost out of nowhere, white got something interesting in the center. This kind of surprised me because when he played here, I didn't think he really had much hope to get anything in the center at all. But he was probably aware of all the Aji, right? He knows that he can get a forcing move around here. He knows this sort of thing is forcing, so he probably had that planned out before he was willing to try for the center. So the game is essentially going to be determined by how much white can get here. Black's going to lightly reduce this from the outside. And at this point, white's judgment is that if he just tries to take this center, black's going to be able to reduce it too much and is probably going to win. So he tries to get like an invasion in here. Yeah, Wild Moyo appears suddenly. By the same token, black can't really, he's not confident in just playing M3 to connect. So he actually tries to come through the vital point here. Miyamoto said, whoever lets up first is probably going to lose this game. So they're playing really severe. And now white plays this crazy, crazy move next. Maybe more crazy than the one we saw earlier. Do they consider this point in game endgame? It feels like some middle game stuff is suddenly going on. Yeah, K4. Ruckus, you've definitely watched this game before. This apparently this is a really severe move. Isn't it crazy? Black has to back off a little bit. If he tries to, let's say we try to swallow everything. This looks nice in theory. The problem is it's not really going to work because white can cut in Sente. Can play here. And like this, right? And black doesn't have enough liberties. So that's not really going to fly. That's why he has to play here and then connect. And white plays a sacrifice stone here, makes a 1 stone into a 2 stone sacrifice, pretty common technique. He can't actually save these stones, but he's sacrificing to try and get, later he can get forcing moves on the outside, which is pretty fancy. And now he goes to start this code deal. Let's just verify that this sort of thing isn't going to work. If white turns here, now he has A, right? Because we have 3 liberties, and black only has 3 liberties. So if we clamp at A, we can kill 2 stones. That means black doesn't have time to do this. Not going to work. But black can play here, and now white's kind of stuck. Because our only hope is to kill these I actually can't play there, have to play here. Only hope is to kill these 4 stones, but white can't win this semi-I. But notice that this point here at A is important. So white can't do M2 right now. So he goes to start this ko. I believe Ruckus. Moves like K4 just come to him naturally. Okay, let's see. Where was Black's ko threat? Now I'm forgetting. Oh, wrong move. It's okay though, because I already broke the tree earlier. White plays here, sorry. So play the code this way, and it's white's threat first. That's why I was a little confused. And black or white plays this spot, right? So now that diagram we just looked at works for white. So black definitely has to answer this, and he just answers it with this move. Since this move removes A, and it also threatens to push through at B later, which is pretty nice. Well, I actually memorized the code threats. I think I know the order of them, but yeah, I completely blew the tree earlier. So let's just show this again really quick to be sure. In this case, black's going to be in trouble here. Yeah, 18 moves in. Okay, so yeah, this is where we are now. So this is black's answer to white's ko threat. White gets to take the ko. Black can't really entertain this, right? Because white A is just too big. It kills all the top stones and threatens the stones on the left. So he has to back off, and then they continue on with the game. As mentioned, these stones are kind of weak. Black can push at A, so white fixes up there. And let's see, what comes next? We're kind of thin here, right? And there's white stones everywhere. So we need to do something about that. And black makes a nice light shape here. We can give some of the stones up, but white shouldn't be able to take all of them, right? So that seems pretty reasonable. White gets this in now just because, at this point, black could potentially kill those off like in one more move. And white has already gotten his center moves in Sente, so he just plays here to prolong the life of these a little bit, and he can get more ko threats out of them later that way. Now he plays an interesting probe, and black handles this area really nicely, I think. He plays nice and safe and light. If you play this sort of thing, there's going to be trouble, right? Potential problems here. So he doesn't want to get too bogged down with any individual stone. He just plays lightly. That does let white follow up. But black has a nice follow up too, right? Because these stones, these 4 stones, need to connect home. And this guy here helps with the cut at A. So pretty well planned out. White pushes to make weaknesses and then saves his stones. And black has to save his stones. Peep his Sente. And so black is all connected up. And just note, if white plays here, we're for black. Right, we're just going to give the 1 stone up and connect. Let's see, what else can white do here? What about if white plays here? Are you sure? Yeah, E13 is better. Um, just connected or connected like that. So there's a little bit of odd there, but black is indeed connected. White's going to press on this group a little bit while taking some useful endgame. Black protects, also puts pressure on these two stones. White protects them while putting pressure back. Now, black needs to save this A stone, but there's a good idea here, which is to play your forcing move first, because white's definitely going to answer right now. Later on, maybe he won't. So you get your forcing move first, and then you fix. Mostly into endgame stuff now. Breaking the bottom's pretty big, so white does that. He's also taking liberties from these guys, which means that the square stones are still dead, but at least we can get co-threats against the triangle ones. Okay, let's see. What's next? Remove 168. Black pushes here. Again, just endgame stuff. K10 is big. K10? Why K10? Coming into the center is certainly big. Actually, black plays here instead, though. This is one of the things that Miyamoto questioned. He thought that maybe jumping in is bigger. So he felt like maybe this would be bigger. You can see the value in this move, though, right? Like this move threatens to push and cut into the center, and also white can just get that for free. So you can see the value there, because if white plays there, you just have to connect, and that's just free for white. So understandable, even though it seems like jumping in might be the first idea. So that lets white close up shop here in the center. And black connects, which means that next black can play A, B, C, right? Which essentially means these four stones are going to die. So that means white has to take this ko now. And we get into this really long, drawn-out ko battle, where I get to see if I remember the order of the ko threats. So let's do that. The ko actually isn't, for black, it's not that big of a deal. It's just for white, he has these four stones at stake. Notice that A is just a snapback, so for black, it's not really a big deal. He doesn't care if white captures at B that much either. So let's see the ko threats. Black wedges in. White plays nice and strong. Ko threats here. That's a ko threat. Now for white, that's a ko threat. Black connects up, keep his liberty strong. Now black gets a bunch of ko threats in a row over here, which is nice. We can't capture, right? Because then that's going to give white the connection under. That's annoying. So we have to actually extend here. White has additional ko threats against this group. How do we answer this, by the way? One of you is right. Yeah, B16. You have to be a little careful, Ruckus, because if you play like this, throw in is Sente to reduce the liberties, and then you can't approach from either side, right? So that would be sudden collapse there. since black can't play A or B. But with this way, he's safe. Black keeps doing his thing over here. Here's a co-threat to revive White's dead group. And Black gets his last co-threat in this area. White threatening to get more liberties down here. And now Black jumps into the center. He's trying to do something here. Like I said, the ko isn't that big of a deal for Black, so he can, whenever he chooses, he can just go for big moves as well. So he's trying to break the center, and White has to connect up. Notice that sure you can cut this, but it's not really meaningful when Black can just push through, right? That means Black's going to get into the center anyway, so that's why he just stays patient, and Black has to connect up here. There's a pretty cool sequence here. If Black does not connect, it looks like when White pushes, Black can just connect like this, but there's like a crazy thing happening here. White can Atari, capture, and then there's this really good cut here, which is going to be Sente. Just watch in amazement. Now at this point, A and B are Mii. So I don't know. That's kind of crazy. I would never read that in a game. But at this point, White can pick up the 3 stones in the center, or he can link these guys back up. So indeed, Black needs a defense here, and he plays it. Now White has the ko right now, so he, as long as he has this ko occupied, his 4 stones are safe for now. So he's not going to finish the ko. He's going to play a move that tries to get more points. So he tries to jump across the top to take the points on top, and that lets Black restart the ko. Let's see, what's next? This one, threatening to revive the bottom again. Now that Black has these center stones, he actually can use those for ko threats, threatening to connect his 3 stones again. So White has to respond to that. Let's see. Where's the next ko threat, Ruckus? You seem to be magically knowing where the moves are. Oh, right. The Atari that he prepared. That's Atari. And Black can display a big move here. Threats against the bottom. Black just takes this because it's pretty big. And again, White just goes after some point stuff now, since he has the ko for now. And that lets Black restart the ko. Me too. Oh, where's the next one? This guy, I believe. So that's a ko threat to throw in. So Black has to answer there. O10. Yeah, black actually just plays some points moves, like threatening to come into this area. So white has to keep his points there. And let's see. What's next for white? White's starting to run out of co-threats, actually, which is a problem. All right, he just finishes this thing on the bottom. Black has this as a co-threat. And white finishes these guys up. Co-threat to break the top. At this point, white kind of realizes he doesn't have enough co-threats to win this ko. He does have more threats at the moment, like he has additional threats he hasn't played yet, but he's not confident to win the ko, so he actually backs off, which essentially means black has won this ko, right? White has lost a little bit because he's been forced to connect instead of potentially winning the ko by playing the two squares and capturing those stones. So black just continues with endgame, pushing in here. Um, White doesn't just connect. First he threatens to cut black. Black says, I can Atari you first. Okay, now I have to connect. Now white has to connect. Black comes back. This is pretty big here on the bottom. Let's attach and descend. There's some points there. Some points here. Sente push. Atari Sente again. Really just small points at this, at this point. Black has to be careful here because A would be a ko to either capture however many stones that is, or the D9 stone. So he connects. White takes this point. Sente, Sente, Sente. And now the only thing left are these two kos. So black connects his, and white connects his. What do you guys think the score is? Black won by 2 points. So kind of interesting. They had, oh, sorry. Thank you, Mitt Vailer. I forgot to click that one. Yeah, black plays this. My bad. Black has to play here, and white fixes his ko, and then black fixes his. And black won this game by 2 points. So they played 5 games. The ear reddening game was won by like 2 or 3 points. This one was won by 2 or 3 points. And then 2 of them were suspended because, black just won so thoroughly. And we haven't seen the 4th game they played yet. Maybe we'll see that later. But sadly, white lost every single game he played against Shusaku. And this is really what kind of made Shusaku really famous. When he, returned back to his hometown, word had spread that, he basically beat the strongest player 5 games in a row. There's no such thing as Komi back then, Groovy. That was invented later. Why is it retarded? It's missing 1 point. Well, A14 is not a point because white can force black to capture later, but B17 is a point. It's not as dumb as you think it is. It's looking ahead, but yeah, it's missing B17, so that is wrong. Um, I can't really make fun of Score Estimator though, because as a programmer myself, I would not want to program life and death. And in order to do score estimation properly, you basically have to do life and death accurately in code. So forget that. Um, that being said, that's the game. So Shusaku got to go home as a Go hero. He's like 17 now. And that's like the end of this chapter in the book. And so the next two games, the next one is another game against Shuwa, which should be cool. I really like Shuwa's play. And the game after that might even be more interesting, is a game against Honimbo Jowa. I haven't seen that one. We've just passed the point. This is the furthest I've ever made in this book, studying by myself. So all the games to come will be brand new for me, which will be cool. Um, Also, I think for the next 5 or 6 lectures, they're going to be shorter commentaries. So I think we'll have 2 lectures a week for the next few weeks. The next one will be on Tuesday, probably 1 hour later than we started today. All right. Thanks, guys.